everyone, and welcome back to today's video. We're just gonna continue where we left off the last time. Just gonna grab the note. So anyways, let me just go back to where we were. My notes are all over the place. So anyways, where we ended was that they started giving her protein in her breast milk to increase. Let's scoot a little bit closer to you guys. So they put some protein in her breast milk to increase her weight gain, and she was having a little bit of issues digesting that, so digestive issues started right after that, and then they started adding MCT oil in as well. I do have to say that they never asked us, or they never even informed us that she's getting that. The only reason why I knew is because you know, the nurse have this big book of every baby, and that book is always out open because they are every hour or half an hour, I don't know how often, they write down the baby's heart rate, oxygenation, blah blah blah, etc., and then any notes they have. And so me as a mom, I always went in, and that was the first thing that happened, is that I went to the book and I read everything that happened since the last time I was there. And that's how I noticed both of those things. So they never actually told me, asked me, or informed me in any way. I found it out, and then I asked the nurse why is she getting that, and the nurse explained that this is to increase her weight gain, because she's so active that she's just not gaining weight the way that they want her to. And basically the whole thing went on about for 2 weeks before the incident happened, but had higher digestive issues came out. That's all in the last video. I don't want to repeat myself all over again. I just want to point out that it was the MCT oil that all started it, and before the incident. So that is you're almost 2 months in the hospital at this point. And we were actually getting our hopes up of taking you home quite soon before all this happened, and no one told us anything, but they were leaving us like these kind of clues and notes, and you know, like you kind of caught stuff from the nurses here and there that kind of meant that she's getting ready to go home. I mean, she was breastfeeding really well with the nipple shield at that point, and she was doing it 3 times a day. If she can do it 3 times a day, she can do it more, obviously. Her temperature was fine. I mean, she was in an open bed. She kept her temperature up, and her heart rate wasn't dropping. Her oxygenation had no issue, even though she was breathing on her own, etc., etc. So we were getting kind of clues coming from places saying that it's getting closer, that she can get home. So our hopes were getting a little bit up at that point. But on the other hand, I saw how bad she's getting on the MCT oil, her tummy and her digestive issues. I just thought that I can solve it by saying, hey, stop giving it to her. So I did. As soon as she started on the MCT oil, her tummy puffed up, like basically the next day, and she started to have digestive issues, pain, cramping, you know, like she wasn't comfy. I started to tell that to the nurses, to tell the doctor that she's having these issues, to rethink the whole idea of this MCT oil. I don't know if they did talk to the doctor or not, but nothing happened. And then I did talk to the doctor a few times. They always said they're gonna, oh, how interesting. Every baby is so different, reacts so differently. Okay, we will see. And nothing happened. And then before the incident happened, they actually doubled the MCT oil in her, the day before the incident happened. They doubled her intake of the MCT oil. and I was just so angry. You know, I went in to breastfeed her at noon that day, and she was so tired. Like at that point she was already getting tired because all her energy went on digesting the food that they were pushing into her every 3 hours at that point, right? It obviously the noise in the background is the baby. I can't help it. So basically she started to breastfeed a little bit less milk as well. I noticed that she's getting in a bit less at that point because her tummy started to hurt, and she was gassy, so I guess that she felt more full, so she was getting in a little bit more less through the breastfeeding, but they still pushed it in to her through the tube, the rest of the feed. And poor baby, I mean, you could just tell so obviously that she was having digestive issues. And I did mention it in the previous video that when I argued to the doctors, I told them that, you know what, I don't care. I know that you are an expert on babies, but this is my baby and I know my baby. I'm a nutritionist. I know what's happening to her tummy. I know all these signs that are here is because of her little tummy, and because she can't digest that amount of fat that's in the breast milk, and no one ever listened to me. And then the incident happened. So before the incident happened, so to speak, I just call it the incident. I had a hard time breastfeeding her because she was so tired. So she drank enough, like she drank basically breastfed about half of her feed that she would be getting, but they pushed the extra 9 meals in there. At midnight, because I was breastfeeding her 3 times a day, and so I was going in at midnight as well. The midnight feedings were not as good, to tell you the truth, because she was usually quite sleepy because she was up from like 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. most of the time, every day. And later on we realized that's her time and she wants to cluster feed, so she doesn't have to wake up for a few hours and sleep. But obviously in the hospital at this point they didn't do that, and she was up, and when I went in to breastfeed her at midnight, she was super tired, and she usually did breastfeed like maybe 17-20 minutes, and then she was out and slept. But that night it was where she didn't want to. Like at that night she wasn't interested in eating at all, and I looked at her and I was like, oh my god, she looked so sick, like not sick as in like having an infection sick, but she was pale, she was tired, she couldn't keep her eyes open, her tummy was so big, she was so gassy, she was in pain with her tummy, like it was so obvious. And I told the nurses, like, please do not give her her feed because she wasn't eating any breast milk, and I'm like, please do not push more food in her. She also had a big spit up in her mouth from the previous feeding. So the previous feeding was 3 hours ago, and it was still sitting in her tummy, and she spit it up at this time. So the nurse came, the nurse said, okay, she's gonna first check how much milk she has in her tummy, and they can kind of just suck it up through the feeding tube, and they saw that she still has a lot of milk in her tummy that's just not digesting. So she called her head nurse, and they agreed not to give her that feed and wait for a 3 a.m. feed. I have no idea what happened at 3 a.m. if they did give her the feed. I'm guessing that this was the only feed that they left out. Actually, you know what, so this video is gonna get too long if I keep going on. So this is gonna be part 1, and then I will come back and do part 2 in the next video, but I'm gonna finish it here.